Good morning. Thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be here today to speak about IOM and the Canadian Orientation Abroad Project, or COA. So COA is a pre-departure orientation project implemented by the International Organization for Migration, or IOM. So now that you're introduced to the acronyms I will be using, I'm just going to briefly touch on the work of IOM. For those of you who might not be familiar with IOM, it's an intergovernmental organization, a bit similar to the UN, with 155 state members. It has been created in 1951, and it's implementing approximately 2,500 programs and activities related to migration every year. So IOM has quite an impressive footprint in the world, with 470 field locations in over 100 countries. It's just providing a really great opportunity for state members to provide services and deploy really and have a mobility in the world to provide services. So IOM in Canada works with Citizenship and Immigration Canada, of course, for resettlement activities, health assessment, pre-departure orientation, visa application services, and other initiatives that, for instance, cultural and medical profiles that really can help communities in Canada to better anticipate the needs of migrants, refugees and immigrants coming to Canada. There are other services or programs implemented with other federal agencies or departments and provinces and territories. So today I'm speaking about the Canadian Orientation Abroad Project, which is really only offered to permanent residents. However, there are other training activities implemented by IOM in the world for provinces and territories, for seasonal and temporary workers coming to Canada. So migrant training, it's a big activity within IOM. IOM is implementing 55 migrant training programs worldwide, with over 40,000 migrants being trained every year. So the Canadian Orientation Abroad Project is quite a huge program. It's one of the first ones that was implemented by IOM. But you also have programs in the US and Australia, in Norway, the UK, and a number of other countries. Some of these programs are really different than the ones that are implemented, let's say, in Canada or the US, which are quite similar. So, for instance, the Norwegian cultural orientation, it's a lower scale program in the sense that there's not as many people being trained every year, but they really do a great work working with communities in Norway to prepare, let's say, municipalities for the arrival of new groups of refugees. Canada is the only program, the only country that offers pre-departure orientation to other groups than refugees. So there were 55 migrant training programs implemented in 2013. Now, moving on to pre-departure orientation in Canada, it's a bit similar to what you presented, Corinne, so I will go really fast over it. But when it comes to defining what we mean by pre-departure orientation, I think what is important to retain is just that over factual information that you want to provide to future newcomers. There's also a great deal of activities and discussions that can be done to insist on the skills and attitudes that are needed to successfully integrate in a new environment. So moving on to what pre-departure settlement support are, and will probably be. The first pre-departure settlement service implemented by the Government of Canada was the Link Overseas program. So it's quite interesting because it touches on what Minister Alexander said this morning. You know, of course, language training is important pre and post arrival. So this program was implemented from 1990 to 1998. Today you have three programs, three in-person programs, I should say. CIP is also providing service online. delivering in different locations with different volumes. So the results from the last CIC evaluation of overseas program indicates that approximately 31 to 56% of refugees are provided with pre-departure orientation in the countries where the service is offered. And it's 8% of independent immigrants. Of course, we're talking about a much bigger pool of people. So. Going beyond the trends in pre-departure orientation, at the moment I think we're providing service to approximately 11,500 people and independent immigrants, and we want to scale it up to 15,000. Same for refugees, where we would like to scale it up to 8,500. Including a new target for youth, which is really interesting. I'll come back to that later. And 60,000 economic immigrants receiving online services. So that's really interesting. There are online services being provided at the moment. Not necessarily all funded by CIC. I believe provinces and territories are funding most of these programs. But it will certainly be interesting to see what can be done online, because of course there's a lot of people that can easily access those services. And then we can concentrate or in-person services to the people who really need it. So the COA project now. COA has been created, I should not say that, but started to work in 1998, mostly with refugees initially, but nowadays more than 55% of our clients are non-refugees. We've trained over 181,000 people since inception. The objective of the program are quite similar to what Cynthia described with the CIP program, in that we provide accurate information about life in Canada, and we help people develop realistic expectations. We're concentrating on the first 6 months of settlement, and we want to increase newcomers' capacity to integrate the job market. The orientation format is different for different groups. So we offer a 3-day program for refugees. Sometimes it's even extended to a 5-day program where we can, mostly with camp-based refugees. The program for economic immigrants, including caregivers, is a 1-day orientation program, either in English or French, and we have a lot of tools to support our orientation. Let me just go back. Okay, works well. COA has 17 permanent sites abroad, and the sites that you see in green are regional sites through which we are able to provide orientation in approximately 35 additional locations every year. So we have, excuse me, we have 3 sites in Central and South America. We have a lot of sites in Africa delivering orientation to refugees. Ghana and Kenya being 2 regional sites through which we provide a lot of orientation, including in many refugee camps. We have a big site in the Philippines. The Philippines is one of our largest sites in terms of numbers. In Pakistan, we have 4 locations, and then I wanted to bring you to Lebanon, because what we're doing right now in Lebanon is quite interesting. We are providing orientation briefings, and I say briefing because we don't always know how long we'll get to provide information to people, but we're meeting people at the border, and by the time that their papers are processed and everything is done, we're just distributing orientation materials and information to them. So I got a few pictures. We don't know how long we'll be able to provide the briefings at the border, but so far it's been really appreciated. People are really nervous. They're getting out of Syria and going straight to the airport in Beirut. So they really don't have that much time to prepare for the move, and they really appreciate the opportunity to discuss what's coming. So we're doing other great things in other locations. Our training materials, now we have a lot of resources that we've developed over the time. So I think I will really go quickly over it. Many of you are probably providing orientation, so you know what's important for newcomers. What perhaps is taking a bit more time in pre-departure orientation is the travel preparation and so on. In addition to orientation, we provide support services, interpretation and translation. All the orientation to refugees is provided in their mother tongue, so we have a lot of interpreters, childminding and travel reimbursement for urban refugees. We have partners in Canada, and we're developing really interesting ideas to strengthen the support that we're providing to refugees and immigrants before they come to Canada. Now, the outcomes, I think it's really interesting to look at the outcomes because, of course, we only have 1 day or 3 days to provide orientation, so we have to be realistic with what we expect in terms of outcomes. But in fact, what comes out of the last evaluation is that, people who attend pre-departure orientation change their plans. They change how they see migrating to Canada. Sometimes they make small changes, they pack differently, but sometimes they will, in let's say 10% of the situation, they will decide to change where they're going to. So there's really a possibility to make a difference in people's choice and really allow them to make informed decision about their move. The evaluation really supports the fact that, expectations are more realistic after orientation. People feel more prepared for the move. They know what to do upon arrival. And to me, what's really important is that it really increased the intake of post-arrival services. So really people, they know what the services are in Canada, and they tend to access it more when they have had the orientation pre-departure. We have challenges, of course, inherent to our work. We don't decide necessarily when people are reaching us. We can't access everyone, obviously. We have big teams abroad, so we need to make sure that the material to support our staff is always up to date. Things are changing really fast, as you know, so I think it's important to really assess what are the needs of migrants to really tailor what we provide in terms of information. And of course to increase or multiply the connections with service providers in Canada. So you know about the upcoming changes. This will certainly have an impact on us, impact in that it might just shorten the window for providing pre-departure services. And we have a new website, so I invite you to visit our website if you want to know more about COA. Thank you.